Welcome, everyone. This is the September 21st engineering-focused weekly call for the Static Site Editor group. I am subbing for Jean, who's on some PTO this week, and I wanted to start by calling on a couple highlights. I think these we covered pretty well last week, but as I was working on release post items last week, I did just want to once again call out Chad. Thank you for the hard work on the static site editor config file. Having that merged in and being able to contribute that to the release post was excellent. It was a good example of iteration, and I'm very excited for building on that in 13.5. And Derek, who's not on the call, thank you. The editing front matter work got merged in, and documentation was merged in, and we got everything just under the gun for the 13.4 release post, but that's going to be a really impressive feature too. So very excited about both of those. Any other highlights that I missed? Because honestly, I was probably only half focused on the group while I was working on all the release post stuff. Okay, nothing in the general overall topics. So we can just jump into static site editor product updates. Chad, you have the first item.
Yep. So the approach we're taking to this is we're reusing a lot of the built-in GitLab APIs and infrastructure for the service patterns and authorization, authentication, and for that, and as well as for the config file itself. We have intended to get this third MR merged in that is actually laying the groundwork for that API, and then after that, the actual fields that we're going to use and need should be a matter of just like adding some simple classes with a couple of DSL declarative lines. I went a little bit slower than I thought, and I technically missed the release, but there was no functionality being delivered anyway. But I felt a little bit better when I talked to a couple of people about it, including a staff engineer, and he was like, yeah, that's probably the second most complex area of the code in the Rails app. So it took me a while to understand and figure it out, but it's coming along now, and I think it's going to be in a good place.
Great. Yeah, and for those that weren't following the threads there, we made the call to still mention it in the release post because it was there were MRs that made it in, even if this third one didn't, and we're going to be building on it for the next release. So I think it'd be great to mention it in 13.4, even if there's limited user value, which was always the case anyway. So that third MR wasn't exactly going to deliver anything additional. We made that call on Thursday. So anything else on the product side? I guess most of the people working on the product are off right now, so, or not on the call, so probably not. I did add this, I don't know, Chad, if you want to give an update on the middleman to frontman plan, but since we have a special guest, Michael, on the call, we can actually maybe just I'll just give a high level update on what that even means, because it could be interesting to you in case you haven't heard from Lauren. We've been evaluating a replacement static site generator. Middleman has been challenging to work with for performance, to improve the performance any further, and the Algolia docs team created this new project called Frontman, which is very heavily influenced by Middleman. It's built in Ruby and was designed to be somewhat of a drop-in replacement. They used it internally and built it for their own needs, but have open sourced it, and we're evaluating it, and it looks pretty promising. So we're going through the process of trying to make it work for us in the handbook. And so now that the handbook is just a single site to target, we don't have to switch over the whole marketing page as well. We're looking to replace the middleman static site generator for the handbook and use frontman instead. But Chad, I don't know if you were able to make any progress on that last week, or if you want to just give an update on the plans.
Yeah, so the main benefit of frontman is it's much simpler, like a fraction of the lines of code, and it's way faster than middleman. Because before with middleman, in order to try to get the builds under 10 minutes, we had to do things like split it up and parallelize it in CI, and it was complex and a lot of work to deal with. And this one hopefully will like be way faster without having to jump through those hoops. But there's a couple of things we need to change before we can completely convert to it, like converting all of the extensions to helpers, because they really provide equivalent functionality. So they didn't provide an extension framework because it's not really necessary. But given that the main benefit that it's going to provide us is really just speed, and even though we could always stand to be faster, all of the improvements we've made were the fastest we've been in 3 years, and still well under 10 minutes for the longest job, which is the handbook, which we still could parallelize and optimize, but we're not wanting to, since we know we're going to convert to frontman. But the bigger priority before that, since we're not too slow and people aren't complaining, is, as Lauren is intimately familiar with, splitting up all of the remaining common code. And that's really going to be the biggest blocker for lots of other things, both on marketing and for the handbook, of going our different directions and using different build tools and using I have like a blank spot in my brain for the acronym for the thing that builds sites.
SSG?
What?
SSG?
Yeah,
No,
static site generator, SSG.
No, the one that Lauren's been investigating.
Oh, CMS.
Web.
I can never remember that acronym. Anyway, yeah. Bad with names. So that's where we are. We have a lot of work to split that up, and Jean and I spent some time last week really digging down into the details of that, because on the surface it's like, yeah, just split it up or duplicate it, but there's a lot of really tricky things, and also some hard decisions to be made of like, okay, which site is this going to live in, and what's the other site going to do? They either just don't display that, for example, direction pages, automatically generated. Those are displayed in both marketing and the handbook. We're going to have to just pick one of those which owns all of the logic to generate and display those, and then the other, if it's the handbook that doesn't have it, we'll just put it in an iframe or link to it. So those are the sort of decisions that are going to have to be made as we split all this stuff up, as well as all the JavaScript and everything else.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think thanks for all this insight too, because it's something that's a little bit blurry to me, though. What the details are blurry, but the amount of work and importance is very clear. And Lauren is so great at explaining it to me in like normal human terms, and I'm very grateful I have a front-end dev background too, so I can kind of piece it together. I definitely, like, that was one of the first things I saw coming in, was like, oh wow, middleman, like the name kind of says it all to me. It's like, you never want a middleman, and this thing seems like so slow. So that's a decision that I would love to make with, on our side, in concert with both of like this group, is the marketing site being so front end focused, like we kind of want to razzle dazzle and get people to understand how awesome the product is. Of course, I'm going to be a little bit skewed, like I mentioned, having front end background. Like, it seems like something that would be JavaScript based would maybe lean into the skill set that we should probably build out on our marketing side, just all that front end cool stuff. But it also makes very little sense to me to have, well, maybe it does make sense. It's unresolved why we would have frontman running and then like Nuxt or something, a different, like, will that create more complication in these potentially shared resources? So that is one thing I'd love to, be making decisions as a whole with this group. And what was the other one? The other one slipped my mind here. Oh, just getting a clear understanding of when we are splitting, and in this future state where there are two different, sites or packages or apps, whatever they are. What does that look like? Difference from current state? Like, how much support are we losing? Because I have a feeling that it's an incredible amount, because this team is awesome, and I feel like we're going to be losing you in the future. And somehow we have, like, I want to be able to go to Danielle and Todd and say, you realize that we're losing like 90% of our support. Like, it went from Lauren with the support of the static site group to now it's just like Lauren, and then she's like expecting me to do something and I'm useless. So we need more people. So those two things would be great to collaborate on.
Yeah, I can probably talk a little bit about them. I also agree switching to something modern and front-end based would be great. The big issue is, I don't know how much of it technically falls under growth marketing, but definitely for the handbook and definitely for other areas that are currently under the marketing site, there's just a lot of historical functionality and complex functionality, like the direction pages, and a half dozen more that you could list that are like significant apps, all written in Ruby. So
Wow.
when you say it'd be great to snap your fingers and have all that, in JavaScript and front end, but that's like a lot of work to reverse engineer undocumented stuff that was written, over the years by multiple people and try to get that on the front end. And then the
Right.
second one, we always work here, and Lauren's a pretty nice person, so I'll always be available to answer questions for her, even
Pretty
if I'm
nice.
not
Hold on. She's
technically
one of the
doing
nicest.
the work for you.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, yeah, we're more than happy to partner, and there's a lot of work to be done and some decisions to be made. I'm excited about Frontman. I could see in the future us reconverging around the static site editor, but for now, I think we're going on great paths that are going to diverge, and we might converge again in a few years. But we'll always be open to collaborate and help out.
Awesome.
So Vasily, you've got the next one on GitLab Docs.
Mm-hmm. So for this milestone, I have a couple of issues related to documentation project, and our goal is to migrate our documentation from /help page, which renders the documentation right now, but the way how it renders is not the great. And we have a docs project, which provides a much better experience. So we're gonna migrate all of this documentation, so the users will be using the docs project to check the documentation. And right now I picked the first issue that introduces a new configuration option for in admin area. It allows users to change the default /help pages to the docs.gitlab.com. So it's the first step. We provide it as an option, and we'll probably switch it on for the GitLab main project, and then we'll start removing the old /help pages and making the documentation project to be shipped together with the GitLab. So the users will receive both of the projects and will be using by default the docs. Oh yeah.
Great, sounds good. Eric Eastwood, you want to chat about Gitter?
Sure. So the first thing that I was working on last week finished up with GitLab Pages redirects. So now we can use that in the GitLab Docs project and change all those meta refresh tag pages over to a single config. And then hopefully in the coming weeks, we can remove that feature toggle altogether and actually generally available to everyone in their normal instances. Gitter-wise, I've been working on issues that I've been piling up that I've been wanting to get to while I've been working on the redirect stuff. So I added some pagination to the archive. Before it was like day pagination. Now I added hour pagination for those rooms that have lots of activity. I added multi-line support to the threaded conversations, so you can actually compose them in the Gitter itself instead of outside and copy paste inside, which was a bit annoying before. And then UX wise, moving the hamburger from the bottom to the top, which it normally is in lots of apps, just making it more consistent with hamburgers across everything else. But it's a bit strange or like off design. It's like half off to the side because the Gitter logo is also trying to fit up there. So feedback welcome if you know of other apps that solve this cool, or if the design that I'm using currently looks weird, feel free to just ping on that issue or anything. That's all I have for this week.
Great, yeah, and thanks again for the redirects. It did not go unnoticed, by the way. So in getting feedback for the release post, Sid was very happy to see that and gave you a little shout out in his comments. So thank you.
Nice.
From everyone. I guess that's marketing. So Lauren and Michael, now's your chance. The floor's yours.
So we decided on Netlify CMS after we went through a review with the developer experience, the content editing experience, and marketing integrations. Something I want to call especially to this group is the content team really liked the side-by-side editing view in Netlify CMS. I thought that they wouldn't like Netlify, and they actually did, so it's really exciting. If any of you want access, just ping me, and I'll add you as a contributor to the repository, which then gives you access to the admin, and it's a great sandbox you can go play around with and break stuff, do whatever you want. Yeah, that's what I got. Michael, do you have anything to add?
Just for like forward-looking plan, now that we have this selected, and again, Lauren did such a great job organizing 3 people, building 3 proofs of concepts while I was on like a parental leave. So it's just like, I came back after 3 weeks and was like, what the, you did all this? And we feel very confident about the decision, and like having gone through and have marketing ops, the content team, and then our technology teams go through it. I too was surprised it was Netlify, but I'm really happy because like I think between Lauren and I and a few other members on our team, we have this sort of back of our head vision of maybe in 2022, this CMS that we're building in, integrating with the static site editor, and then this being a package product that's actually built into GitLab that's offered to our customers. And I feel like Netlify allows us to take a step towards what that vision would be sooner. So that's very exciting, rather than using something like Contentful or another kind of businessy kind of thing that's trying to make its own business out of its product. And then on my side, while Lauren's doing the more important work of making it happen, I'm just again going back and figuring out what that looks like resources wise, and putting in a request for a little bit more assistance to help build this sooner than later, because I don't want to lose this momentum. And definitely would love to hear anyone's opinions or thoughts, or if anyone, as we're going through, has any ideas. Like, we are very, very, very highly collaborative, and I think great ideas come from everywhere. So if anyone has any thoughts, like, jump in at any moment. It won't be annoying.
Lauren gave me a quick run through of it, and it looks good. And I had a while back sort of looked at what I would like to use for my own site and my own side projects, and did a review, and I like the Netlify a lot. And I think they're sort of the pioneers of the Jamstack term and that approach. So I think their philosophy and everything going forward is probably going to be one of the most aligned with the way the static site editor is going, since we're also embracing that approach. And with the Netlify as the CMS, remember it at that time, and but using GitLab, CI, and all of the other infrastructure, and maybe Pages or whatever, however it works, seems like a really good approach that's going to have a lot of synergy.
Nice. Yeah, one of the things we got mildly confused on is like Netlify, no CMS, just Netlify is CI/CD, and inherently, you know, we've been told it's not necessarily a competitor, though we are offering similar, you know, functionality or services to the same user base. But Netlify CMS, it's I think Todd even like kind of drew a circle around it and was like, this is not a competitor at all. So it's because we're not building that currently. So that we kind of waded through that a little early. And yeah, I agree. I think that kind of joint vision is going to be awesome.
And like I said, I'm really interested in seeing how y'all evolve that and having the Netlify CMS, but having GitLab run all of the CI/CD backend infrastructure, because that's exactly what I wanted to do for my own stuff. So feel free to keep me in the loop and reach out for questions on that, Lauren, because I want to learn more about the details of how that works and what problems you run into.
And we used Pages for the proof of concept also. Interesting side note: redirects don't work with GitHub Pages unless you add a custom domain.
I see Eric looking.
It will work. You have to do a relative URL with the .io stuff.
Okay, makes sense.
I was also, I'm also interested in this feedback about the side-by-side editing, and I'll look into their implementation. So the feedback that we got when we were looking at just general directions very early was that the side-by-side editing of like raw markdown that then just gets like parsed into HTML on the side was not going to be as helpful. But from what I understand, what Netlify CMS is doing is more about like providing content blocks in a form, and then as you edit that, it renders out the page. So I think I'll be really interested to see how the team uses that, because I think it could inform how we evolve our editor. You're right, though, we're not direct competitors right now, and they're an open source project. I could actually see like a very complementary service. Like you could maybe use our WYSIWYG editor in their content blocks one day. Like that would be a fantastic approach.
That'd be awesome. Totally.
But our approach in general has been to make essentially that page content block, that editor experience, much more robust than a text field or just like a markdown field. And then from there, we'll build into this other stuff like editing the front matter and the title, which is coming in 13.4, or it's actually merged now, so you can use it on GitLab.com. But the next step that we have to, the next hurdle that we have to get over is that live page rendering. So as you're editing in a really pleasant editing experience that's WYSIWYG and everything, it's still a vanilla styling. And if you want to see what it looks like on your page with your edits in line, that'll be the next hurdle. And that's where, you know, you have to have some kind of incremental build of the page as you save edits and things like that. So that it'll be a technical challenge for us to be, to put it mildly, but it'll be an interesting one to explore probably next year.
Yeah, the sooner we can get to that future state where we're using Netlify CMS with the static site editor as the text editor, that's highly, you know, we're really into that. So I also think we'll be like helping each other out, solve different problems kind of like through the conversion point. So let's make that happen. Yeah.
I'm definitely going to be digging through the proof of concept. I meant to do it last week, but didn't get a chance. So I will be absolutely doing it this week. And yeah, I'll send you any questions I have. But any feedback that you get as you roll this out, send it our way. We'd love to. Maybe we should just have like an issue open that's like rolling threads of feedback so we can capture the main things.
Yeah, for sure. And we could set up a channel. We'll set up a Slack channel as well where we can kind of collect that center point.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for your hard work on identifying the CMS. I know it's been an important project for the marketing team. And yeah, I'm happy that you chose Netlify CMS, and I do think we need to be specific about choosing Netlify versus Netlify CMS. They are two different products.
Yeah.
It would be interesting for us to choose Netlify as a like CI/CD and hosting and like content
weird.
delivery partner, but yeah, we'll see. This is the content editor. The CMS is it's an interesting product, and like Chad said, they're on the cutting edge of Jamstack stuff, so having coined the term and everything.
We're all going to the Jamstack Conf in October.
Yeah?
Yeah, we're all signed up.
Great.
You should sign up, Eric.
Maybe
you
one,
and I can,
yeah.
we can sit in the back and just
October.
be like, what are they talking about?
Yeah, we'll see. I thought it was virtual this October, but they're having it in person?
Yeah, it's virtual.
No, we're signed up for the virtual conference.
Signed up for, yeah.
Yeah. It's free.
I will sign up. For sure. I sat through about half the sessions on the last one.
And we went as a team to the last one.
Yeah. We had a little team viewing party. It was fun.
Nice.
Yeah, cool. I don't have much. We're hitting close to time. I'm going to be working on the release post again this week. The release is tomorrow, and then there'll probably be some feedback coming in that I have to manage. So I'm excited about it, though. It's a great release. I think the static site editor has 2 really solid release post items in there. It's making the team look good. I'm very, very happy to see that. But yeah, if I'm a little slow to respond, that's why. 13.5, the kickoff call is recorded. I posted it to YouTube. I'm really, really excited about this release, but I also want to make sure that there's no questions or concerns about how much we're committing to. If you have any of that, please let me know. I think we've made it clear at this point that I'm not one to push for items to be done. I don't want you to do overtime on the weekends and stuff just to hit some specific release. So please come to me if you have questions about the scope, or if there's anything that needs to be cleared up before you can dive into the implementation issues. And the last thing I wanted to highlight was that we talked about this on our weekly design call last week, but we wrapped up the last of the category maturity survey interviews, and the scores were potentially slightly skewed towards the positive. I mean, that people were being a little generous, but the people, all the interviewees were able to complete the action for the most part, and the scores are high enough that we can formally update our category maturity to viable. I'll be going through all that and updating that this week. So that's very exciting. We hit our goal of September 22nd. And yeah, we should all be very proud that we brought a category from 0 to viable in less than a year. And that's it for me. So unless there's anything else, I'll stop the recording.